Hey guys, it's Peter K here, your finance PT, and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be sharing with you guys some practical things that I did to prepare for marriage. So I've been married for just over 2 years, 3 years in September, and honestly guys, the time has gone by so quick. I thought it'd be great to jump on here and share some practical tips with you. Before I got married, I found that a lot of people give you unsolicited advice, some good, some not so good. And for me, I was very conscious and I knew that getting married was just not about loving that person and wanting to spend the rest of your life with them. I knew that wasn't enough to make a marriage work, nor for that marriage to be healthy, because I've seen many people who loved each other that got married and then end up getting divorced. And for me, I didn't get married to get divorced. I didn't get married, to be in a toxic relationship or a relationship that is just one of a facade that, you just post some cute pictures on Valentine's Day or, anniversaries. No, I wanted to have a healthy relationship with the person that I love, with my best friend. So I knew I had to be conscious about that. So the tips I'm going to be sharing with you guys are things that I did. And I did identify that there was definitely a gap in the market for books written by women. And, maybe there's something in the pipeline that I might be working on. But anyways, we're not getting into that today. So the first practical thing that I did to help me to prepare for marriage, which honestly is so important, and if no one has ever told you, or maybe you know but you've never done it, is sort through your baggage. Now, this one, I might take a while speaking about it because it's so important. Sorting through your baggage is key. So many people get married, but they haven't dealt with their unresolved issues, especially things, surrounding things like, for example, when you grew up, how was your parents' relationship? How did that form the way that you see relationships? For example, a lot of guys have, okay, maybe not a lot of guys, there are some men who have this idea that men cheating is normal, it's natural, it's a part of men's nature. In some cultures, this is just like, it's normal, it's okay. If a man cheats, there's nothing wrong with that because it's a part of their nature. Now, for me personally, cheating is my deal breaker. So that was something that, of course, I spoke to my fiance about, what is his thoughts around that? If I was to ever cheat, would he stay with me? And of course, if he asked me the question, my answer was definitely no. It's a wrap. This video is not about arguing or sharing your opinion about whether you agree or disagree. I'm just sharing these tips. If you like them, great. If you don't, it's okay. But anyway, so speaking about those kind of things was really, really important. And like I said, sorting through my baggage, some of the things that I saw growing up in my parents' marriage, and there were certain things that I didn't want for my marriage. So I knew that learning to, for example, communicate my feelings, which was very, very difficult for me. Being vulnerable has never been easy, especially when it comes to talking about my feelings, my fears. Like, for me to open up was very, very difficult. So even before I started dating my husband, this was something I consciously started working on, pushing myself to open up, pushing myself to allow myself to show emotions, especially emotions that I might think in my mind would make me weak. So these were some of the things that I had to sort through. I had to sort through the things I saw growing up that for me were fears that I had. There was a lot of things that I didn't want to happen in my marriage. I didn't want to ever get divorced, So again, I had to sort through my baggage, and it's so important to do that. Financially, you may be ready for a relationship. You may be at an age which, seems that you are responsible or ready for a relationship. But again, sort through your baggage. Sort through your baggage. Because honestly, too many of us, we get married or we start having children and we are broken. We're not ready to start joining our lives with someone else. So honestly, sort through your baggage. Of course, you're never going to be perfect. I'm not perfect. I still have baggage I'm consciously sorting through. But the key is to identify what are the toxic habits you have, what are the toxic traits that you have. For example, what are the gaps in your communication? Maybe you find it very difficult to sort out conflict, when someone doesn't agree with your opinions. These are all things that can really, really deteriorate a marriage or any relationship. So definitely, if you find that you have those kind of patterns where maybe you can't even keep a friendship, you've never had a friend for over 5 years or 10 years, or any kind of long-term relationship is very, very difficult for you to keep. If you can't keep a friendship, how do you think you're going to keep a long-term healthy? Because sometimes we have those toxic friendships for 20 years, but they're no good for us. But if you want to truly have a healthy and loving relationship, which yes, it is possible. Not every couple that posts a cute picture on Instagram is being fake or they don't have a good relationship. Some genuinely do, and of course there's some that don't. But it's not for us to judge people's relationship. The key is to make sure your relationship's on point and be a reference to others. So definitely sort through your baggage. That's number one. That's key. If you haven't sorted through your baggage, whether you feel like you need to speak to someone that you don't know, maybe getting a therapist, therapist, speak to someone. Don't, suffer in silence or try to deal with it by yourself if you know that you're not getting anywhere with that. So speak to someone about your feelings, someone that can help you, someone that can give you sound advice. I think the key is really sound advice. Like, some of the advice that some people gave me was not sound. As much as they gave it from a place of love and they cared about me, sometimes the advice was centered around baggage they had been through, trauma that they had been through. And again, I had to be very conscious of the kind of advice that I accepted and, of course, rejected the negativity. So that's number one, sort through your baggage. Second thing that I did was I invested in learning more about relationships. So of course we have relationships around us, some may be good or bad. For me, I never really had many relationships around me that I could say, yes, I want a marriage like that, or I want that kind of love. I never had that from people that I knew personally. Like, I had a couple, but not many. So for me, I knew I needed to consciously invest in learning. So what did I do? I read loads of relationship books. So I'm going to share some of the books that I read with you. Now, if you see me looking down, I'm just reading from my list. So the first book that I read, and we actually started reading this book when we just started dating. And honestly, guys, I recommend this book to everyone. If I know you and you're in a relationship, you know that I've recommended this book to you. So the first book is The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. This book is so good. Like, honestly, it's such a great basis to help you to learn more about yourself as well as your partner. It's so good. It helps you to see love in a different kind of way, and it really will help you to understand yourself. So even if right now you're single, start reading the book, because the first love that you need to have for anyone is for yourself. If you don't love yourself, how are you really going to accept love from someone else? And how will you ever be able to truly give a healthy love if you don't have love for yourself? So definitely read this book. It's such a great investment. I really wish that I got some sort of referral link for this book, because I have really told lots and lots of people about this book, and honestly, not one person has yet to say that the book was not good. It is amazing, very practical, and it's one of those books that you can go back to from time to time. Like, one of the main principles that I took away, and it's a question I ask my husband from time to time, and it's, how is your love tank? And it's such a great way to start conversations, especially when you feel like maybe that person is going for a dark place, or you feel like the relationship is not where it should be. Then I always ask, how's your love tank right now? How are things going? Just to really make sure we're both on track. Because one thing I've learned in relationships is that sometimes you may think everything's going great and your partner's not feeling the same way. You're not always automatically going to be on the same page. There are so many different factors that can affect how you see the relationship. So definitely making sure communication is on point. Like, if you're dating right now, really invest in having effective communication with your partner, being honest with them about how you feel. Like, there's no point in you saying things you think they want to hear versus what you truly feel. So making sure you're transparent and honest in a loving way. I'm not saying say every single thought that comes to your mind, because again, you may find you're not in a relationship no more because of your mouth. So definitely questions like this, they're so practical, so simple, but it makes such a difference to the relationship, and it always helps us to really make sure we're on the same page. And when we're not on the same page, it's a question of, so what can I do to be better? What can I do to support you more, or to show you more that I love you in the way that you want to receive love? So definitely cop that book. Amazing. I will put the links to all the books, well, not the links, but the names of all the books in the description box, so definitely check it out. Next book that I read, which is really good, was called Things I Wish I Knew Before Marriage. I believe it was by Gary Chapman. I may be wrong, but honestly, guys, this book is amazing. It was so good. It covered everything. It spoke about sex, communication, the differences between men and women and how they see relationships, the expectations, and also factors for you to consider as well, and conversation starters you need to have with your partner. So definitely another great recommendation. Also on my list was The Power of a Praying Wife. Now, faith for me is one of the key foundations. It's very important to me. I'm a Christian, and for me, I've always wanted to have a healthy, blessed marriage, not just one that looks cute in pictures. So this book was really amazing. I believe it was by Stormy O'Martian. Forgive me if I've said the name wrong or I've quoted the wrong author, but it's a really great book. There's also one called The Power of a Praying Woman, and it's really good. So definitely check that book out. Great book. If especially, a Christian, or even if you're not Christian, but you want to pray more, and praying is such a great tool to bless your marriage and also to help yourself, and also for you to outlet the things that you can't say to your partner that you want to just speak to God about and just get out there. So definitely check out that book. Really good one. Now, the last book is called The Act of Marriage. And guys, it is such an amazing book. I can't remember the name of the author, but again, like I said, check the description box. I'll put it all down there. This book is so good because there were so many things that I didn't even know about my own body in this book. And it really touches on sex in the context of a marriage. You know, when we think of sex, we have all these different opinions. Some of them are not even healthy at all. And like I said, I'm a Christian. So for me, you know, there are many different worldviews on sex and what it should be like and what it needs to look like and how it should feel. But being able to have a Christian context on it, but a very open and transparent one, was really, really, really great. And whenever I know anyone getting married, I always get them this book because it is so, so, so good. It really helps you to understand not just the physical side of sex, but also the spiritual side of it, and really understanding how men and women think and work, and being able to explore and understand yourself as well as your partner more. So guys, this book is amazing. If you're about to get married, if you're engaged, or you're already married, check out this book. It's so good. Honestly, you will not regret it. And I guarantee you will finish reading it. Because, you know, guys, sometimes you start a book and you never finish. This one, you were guaranteed to finish the book. Now, the next thing that I did that really, really helped, you know, to build us up and prepare us for marriage was having deep conversations about different issues. I was that girlfriend that I would ask my boyfriend like loads and loads of questions. And of course, when we got engaged, I had a long list. I would Google like questions to ask your partner, questions to ask your fiance, deep questions to ask and consider. And I think I'd been through every single website you can think of. But for me, it was so important for me to realize, and for him to know as well, whether we were on the same page or not. Because I think sometimes when you're in a relationship, or you know someone, you've known them for a while, you kind of assume that you're on the same page, that you want the same things. And maybe you think just because you love each other, that means everything is just going to fall into place naturally. And in a relationship, it just doesn't. It doesn't. It takes work. It takes conscious effort to make things work. So I would always ask deep questions, and he'd ask questions too. Like I'd ask him, oh, do you have a question for me? And whenever he'd say yes, that was like my love language. I was so happy. But honestly, that really helped, you know, understanding whether we were on the same page when it came to big decisions. Like, for example, do we ever want to have children in the future? So for me, that was very, very important because I had my own view and my own desires when it came to children. And I needed to make sure that he was on the same page with that as well. So definitely speaking about those things. Kids, you know, what do you want to do? Would you ever want parents living with you as they get older? Would you, you know, put them in a care home? Like, these are deep things you need to think about that can really affect your marriage in future. And I think sometimes because we're not at a certain stage yet, we think we don't need to think about it. We think, oh, we'll just tackle it later. But I think it's good to start having those conversations right in the beginning, so you can already see where the roadblocks may be in future. And it's just super important to do so. Also speaking about things like goals, you know, one day, do we want to buy a house? Do we want to rent forever? You know, are we on the same page when it comes to that? What are your views on money? How money should be managed? I wish we'd spoken a little bit more in terms of how we were going to manage our money when we were dating, in terms of like setting up a proper budget and sticking to it, because we didn't really do that until we actually got married and we realized, oh yeah, we need to be a bit more disciplined. But to be honest, we didn't do that bad. We didn't like acquire any debt, so that was good. But definitely having those conversations about deep topics, just being real with each other, is really important to already help you to see, is there any red flags? Because too many of the times, you know, there are red flags, people ignore them, they end up marrying this person or committing themselves to this person, only later to find out that, you know what, yeah, I should have listened to my gut. It wasn't the right relationship, or it wasn't the right time even for us to get married. So definitely that's a factor to consider. Now, the next one was saving for my wedding. Now, that's one of the things I did when we were preparing for marriage. I was consciously saving, guys. I don't think I was as disciplined in any other time of my life than when I was saving for my wedding, because I had a focus, I had a goal, and I knew that if I want this wedding to be how I envision it, I need to save up my money, because I can't depend on anyone to pay for these things. I need to make sure we at least have the money. Of course, generosity is always accepted, and thankfully we had amazing people around us that supported us. Our parents did, extended family helped out too, but we knew primarily we were going to be paying for the big purchases, so we needed to make sure things were on point. And doing that really, really helped, so that we got into marriage debt free. We didn't have any debts, you know, owing on a credit card or a loan from anyone. We were able to have that ease and not have to worry about that, which was great. Now, the next thing is not really something that I did, but it's something I wish I had known before I got married. And that it wasn't just about writing your bills down and knowing how much they are, but making sure we actually have a system in place of how we're going to manage our money. That's one of the things that we lacked at the beginning of our marriage. Like, I knew all the bills, I knew how much things were. But again, we have a joint account and we're both just spending. And then I'd see money getting on. It's like, oh my gosh, I have to transfer money from my savings, because my big fear is, not having money to pay the bills and bills not being paid on time. Like that, for me, that's a massive red flag. So again, because we never had like a proper budgeting plan, or we weren't tracking our spending, we'd end up falling into those little traps of having to go into our savings. And I was just getting like, no, this doesn't make sense. There's enough money, so why does this keep happening? But again, one thing I learned is with money, if you're not tracking it, we're always spending more than we think we are. As much as we'd like to think, I'm not spending nothing, especially when you have a joint account, you might not be spending nothing, but your partner is. And it's being conscious of that and knowing those things that can make all of the difference. So I'm so glad of the time when I took the initiative to create my finance and budgeting tracker. And it's so funny because when I created it to solve a problem in my life, and now today other people are using it, and it's just to think that is amazing. Like it's amazing. But that really made such a massive difference, because I could check my tracker, I'd know how much I had left in bills to pay, I could check how much is in our account, and I'd know whether we're on track, whether we're under budget, over budget. Being over budget is always a good thing, making sure that you have excess. No, other way around. Being under budget is always a good thing, because it means you're spending less. So that was one of the key things I wish I had known. Now, guys, if you want me to record a video on things I wish I knew before marriage, or even maybe record a podcast on it, do let me know in the comments. Now, I hope you guys found these tips helpful. These are definitely things that helped me out. And also, I'd suggest if you have people around you that are in a loving relationship, of course, no relationship is perfect, which is why I said loving and healthy relationship. I'm not talking about people that they're together today, tomorrow they're broken up, and so on and so forth, but people that you really look up to and you believe they have a healthy marriage, then why not, speak to them and get some tips, see what works for them. And the last thing I'd end with is saying that always take advice with a pinch of salt, and understand that your partner and other people aren't the same. He may have 3 brothers, or she may have 3 sisters, but they're going to be different to their siblings. So take any advice you get with a pinch of salt, and see what you can actually apply into your relationship, because what works well for my relationship might not necessarily work well for someone else's. So it's really all about finding what works for you. But of course, we all know that one of the keys of any loving and effective relationship is communication. So if that's one thing you're struggling with in your relationship, start working on that before you get married, because a breakdown of communication is often something that leads to resentment, leads to not trusting that person, and unfortunately sometimes leads to the end of the relationship. Now, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you didn't already subscribe to my channel, please click and subscribe and keep up to date with my videos, guys. I'm going to continue to push myself to stay consistent. It's not easy, but support me on this journey to growing my community, to serving you all, and I hope you enjoyed. And if you did, like I said, please do like this video, leave your comments. It keeps me going. It helps me to realize I'm not just recording to the air, but you are there, right there with me. Have a great day, guys, and I'll see you in my next video.